Good morning, boys and girls. I hope you're all having a great week. Another week here and with our digital classes. I'm glad to see everybody. Although I can't see you, I really wish I could. But won't it be great when we get to come back to our church building and have classes together? So today, we've had some great lessons, and today we're going to learn about David and Goliath. Now, I know you've all heard the story, but it's a great one, so we're going to tell it again. Okay, David, we read a lot about David in the Bible, but this story happens when he was just a boy, probably a little older than most of you all. So David was a shepherd. Does anybody know what that means? A shepherd takes care of sheep out in the field. So David was the youngest. He had 7 big brothers. That's a lot of brothers. So David was the youngest, and he was the family's shepherd. That means he went out in the field and he took care of sheep. Now he had a big responsibility because he had to make sure that all the sheep were safe. And sometimes an animal would come and he would have to scare off the animal. So like one time a lion came and David had to fight off a lion. But he knew that God was with him. So he fought the lion and he saved his sheep. So in this story, we learn about David and Goliath. Now, the Israelites were fighting a group called the Philistines. And one day, all of David's brothers had gone to the army to fight the Philistines. And David was out tending the sheep. His father came to him and said, "David, you need to go take some food to your brothers where the battle is happening." So David gathered up all the food and he traveled to the battlefront. And when he got there, he saw the Philistine army out in front of him, and then a giant stepped out in front of him. This man, Goliath, he was 9 feet tall. That's as tall as this, almost as tall as this ceiling, this room down here. He was huge, and he stepped out in front of the army, and he said, "Send out one man to fight me, just one man. And if he kills me, then the Philistines will be the Israelite slaves. And if I kill him, then you all will be our slaves." And David did not like that. All the Israelite army was so scared that they ran away. And David said, "Why are you fighting?" He said, "Somebody has to step up and fight this man." So David realized that this was his chance to prove himself. He went to King Saul and he said, "I will fight Goliath." But Saul, he said, "You're only a boy. You can't fight him. He'll crush you." But David described his battle with the lion. You remember how David had killed the lion to save his sheep? David told Saul about that. He said, "I know God will protect me." He said, the battle is the Lord's. So Saul finally said, "Go, and may God be with you." So the king ordered his servant to come and put all of his armor on David. He put his bronze helmet on his head and his armor on, and he gave him his great big sword. And guess what? David could hardly move. He couldn't even lift up the sword. So he looked at Saul and he said, "I'm sorry, but I can't fight in this armor. I can't even move." He said, "I'm not used to this armor." So if you want to see King Saul, here's King Saul, and he's telling David, he said, "Go and let the Lord be with you." So with the king's permission, David took off all of that armor, and then he went to a stream. Do you know what a stream is? It's like a river. It's like a small river. And David chose 5 smooth stones from the river, just 5. So David pulled out his sling, like a slingshot, and he was ready to face Goliath. David knew that the Lord would be with him. So David went back to the battlefront. See Goliath? Look how big he is. And there's the army behind him. Do you think David was scared? Maybe, but he had faith that God would help him, didn't he? So he was ready to face Goliath. David went, his brothers were with him, and David walked toward Goliath. The giant looked down at David, and he just laughed. He said, "I asked you to send me a man, and you send me a little boy?" He said, but David he didn't move. Instead, he said, You come at me with a mighty spear and heavy armor, but I come against you in the name of God. The same God will deliver you to my hands." So David reached into his pocket, and he pulled out a stone. And as Goliath got closer, David loaded his slingshot, and he whirled it in a circle, faster and faster and faster. And then David took aim, and he let that stone fly. And guess what? It hit its mark. It hit Goliath right in the head, in the forehead. As the stone hit his forehead, Goliath dropped his spear, and he crashed to the ground. David had won. He had beaten Goliath. David's brothers lifted him up on his shoulders, and they ran and they fought the Philistines, and they won. So Saul was very happy with David. David bowed down to Saul, accepting his new position. Saul had made him his commander. See? He was very proud of David. Now, I know that there's a lot of things going on right now that may seem like Goliaths in our life, right? This virus that's going on and all the things that we're missing out on. But if we know that God is with us, then we can conquer anything, can't we?
Activity time!
So here's what we'll need for our craft. We've got this paper here, and I've written our memory verse on here. For the battle is the Lord's, which comes to us in 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 47. So we need some craft sticks. Here's 1, 2, 3. They're just like popsicle sticks. Save your popsicle sticks after you've had your popsicles. I know you're all eating them. Add a pipe cleaner. And what else? Now, David chooses five stones, doesn't he? 5 stones. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and yes, we're going to pretend that those are stone colored. And then some glue to glue it all down. All right, so you can see I've already got one of my sticks down here, the handle of David's slingshot. So now we're going to take our pipe cleaner, wrap it around one end of the other stick, like that, nothing fancy. And then we're going to glue that down up here. The other two are going to kind of make a Y shape. Okay, you're going to have to press that down for a second and kind of wait for the glue to dry, or else it'll pop up on you. Now, take your third stick, wrap the other end of the pipe cleaner. Now you might need to trim this. I've kind of left mine pretty long, but you can kind of angle that up. Wrap it around the other end, or the end of the other stick. Now, get some glue and glue your third stick down. There. We just made David a little slingshot. Because David went up against a giant in heavy armor and a sword with nothing but a slingshot and his faith in God. And then we're going to glue our stones on around. Might work better if I glue the paper. Let's kind of mix them up. You can use whatever colors you have. Just make it fun. There. All right. Well, I hope you had fun, and maybe you can remember that this will remind you that the battle is the Lord's. All right. Remember, we love you, we miss you, and we hope to see you really soon. All right. Bye-bye.